This is a journey into sound. A journey which along the way will bring to you new color, new dimension, new values, and a new experience.
Welcome to the G-Spot Podcast. I'm your guide, Katie Silcox, bringing you your weekly self-love soundbite. Join us for conversations around sex, spirit, and all things self-care. All things self-care. All things self-care.
This is a journey into sound.
You are a G-Spot Podcast with Katie Silcox.
Hey guys, here I am back at Shakti School after a really fun weekend at the Floyd Yoga Jam. If you don't know the Floyd Yoga Jam, it's this really sweet yoga and music festival in my home state. And we've got a really special podcast for you guys for this week. It is a super long, it's like almost 2 hours. So brew a pot of tea. Or if you're like me, you can like listen to it in the car on a trip or something. But I wanted to use it because it was a lecture that I gave to an amazing group of yoginis in Cincinnati, Ohio, at my favorite studio in Cincy, Shine. Hi, Shine. Shout out to Shine. And I love it. And it just really speaks to my heart and the essence of Ayurveda and trying to really keep it real for you guys. As with everything in any of my lectures, classes, blogs, books, this is all just my opinion. And none of it's meant to harm, offend anyone. Anytime you're talking about diet, anytime you're talking about the body, anytime you're talking about emotions, spirit, sex, self-care, ancient mystical traditions, you're just bound to piss somebody off. So I just want to preface this lecture by saying, you know what? Take what works for you and leave the rest. And that really goes for any teacher teaching. I do want to share these lectures with you guys in a really raw way because I feel like there's a lot of fear in the world right now to just even speak with all the craziness on social media. Some people are veering in the direction of speaking too much and using social media as a platform for their vomit of their emotional body, but other people are afraid to speak at all. And I don't want to be one of either of those groups. These are my thoughts on Ayurveda that have been helpful for radically changing my body and even more importantly, my mind and my heart. And so I'm going to keep sharing it because it's important. The other piece is that, when we're speaking about the true wisdom and lineage in terms of spiritual practice, any lineage that is preaching the message of compassion, in my estimation, is the same lineage. And so there are just lots of us out there and we're all teaching it in different ways. And so you got to find the way that works for you. So I'm calling this lecture my Ayurveda Soapbox. I got up on my Ayurveda Soapbox. I'd just come back from 2 weeks in Hawaii on Ayurveda cleanse retreat. And I was so fired up and so energized and just feeling so passionate. So I hope you enjoy this little workshop on Ayurveda, sex, spirit, and self-care. Thank you guys. We'll see you next week. So we did that because really Ayurveda is very different than yoga, you guys. I know a lot of you are in the teacher training program and we all love yoga, but Ayurveda has been called the sister science of Ayurveda, and these two sisters always hang out. One without the other doesn't feel good, right? It's like if you have a sister, you get this. Like, yes, she annoys you sometimes, but you got to have your sis, right? It's the same thing with yoga and Ayurveda. They were never taught separately. Really, if you're talking about traditional classical yoga, yoga teaches you how to die. Yoga is all about your ego getting burned in the fire of practice. Yoga is all about doing weird pretzel things with your body and breathing exercises, like things you would never just do. Right? Let's be honest. This stuff's weird. Ayurveda is the opposite of yoga in the sense that Ayurveda teaches you how to live. Yoga teaches you how to die well. Ayurveda teaches you how to live well. Ayurveda is a big fan, and I know some of you are study with Siana and you're tantric, so I am too. We're a little different. We also are into life. But, you know, a lot of the classical yoga teachings, most people don't know this, but they were taught mostly to men, and they were taught in a very specific context that often involved caves that you would live in for many, many months, and you wouldn't talk to anybody, and you wouldn't eat anything except maybe someone would throw you some gruel, like to keep you barely alive. You would maybe have a little loincloth, but you were mostly just silent. And yoga, as a science, is brilliant in its ability to teach you how to be one thing, and that is non-reactive. Raise your hand if you could use maybe being a little less reactive. All the pittas, all the fire types in the room. I am one of you. So many of us were attracted initially to yoga because it helps us, another way of saying it is to become more calm. So if you're a type A, or you're a very pitta person, or you're a stressed out mama, you come and you do yoga, and lo and behold, it teaches you how to be less reactive when your kids are freaking you out, or it teaches you just how to be more relaxed and more calm. This is the science of yoga, to be non-reactive, to be calm. Another word, to be non-attached. Have you guys heard this? Right? I'm not teaching anything new. You know this. And I want to make the case that the yogis knew exactly what they were doing. They were brilliant scientists of the anatomy and physiology of the body, of the emotions, of the mind. They knew how to get you to the goal. And the goal was you're calm and you're not reacting and you are really turning off the senses. Pratyahara. You teacher trainees know this. It's turning the senses within, but eventually turning them off. There would be no way that a yogi, or I'm talking very ancient, I'm not talking American pop yoga that started in 19, etc. I'm talking old school. Those yogis would sit for 4 hours to 4 years without moving. The only way that the human physiology has the capacity to do that is if you short circuit certain parts of your brain. You feel me? Then I come on the scene, or Siana, or you guys, right? And we're like, welcome to my world. I'm alive. So Ayurveda and tantric forms of yoga teach us how to actually step more fully into our aliveness, into our reactivity. If you're studying with a tantric teacher or an Ayurvedic practitioner who's somewhat tantric, then they will teach you how to fight well. Do you know that it's a really, really, really good thing in nature to be reactive? If you're non-reactive, there's 3 states of the nervous system in sympathetic mode, and it's either you're fighting, or you're afraid, or you're collapsed. In the first definition of yoga that I gave you, that system is designed intelligently to collapse the nervous system over time. So what I'm sharing with you guys is a big deal that you know. We need to know what the tools and the technologies of yoga are doing to our physiology. Ayurveda and Tantra actually ask us to step into our healthy sensory system, our healthy reactivity system. If you come at me, I'm not going to collapse. Unless you're really big, and then I might. But we need to be able, especially as women, and the men that are attracted to yoga, We need to be good at standing up for ourselves, at saying, here's my boundary, or this is what I need just in my daily routine. This is what I need to eat today. This is what I need to do to my skin today. This is how many hours of sleep I need. All of these things are very much on the Ayurvedic, I'm standing up for myself, I have needs, I have boundaries, and all of this at times can go directly against the original goal of some forms of yoga. So I want to start off this talk by saying what I'm sharing with you tonight is less about how to be more calm, although that's important, and more about how to unravel that which is inside me that may be frozen and afraid and asleep. Does this make sense to you guys? So it's just a little bit of food for thought. Tantra and Ayurveda are the science of the life force. You may have seen this, it's an unfortunate thing what happened. You know the symbol of the swastika. Are you guys familiar with the origin story of that? Somebody tell me what you know about it.
Lakshmi symbol.
It's the Alakshmi symbol, exactly. It used to be, and still is in India, the symbol of life. And in India, you can imagine, I'm not going to draw the symbol on the board. First of all, my brain has a hard time drawing it. It's like there's a block there. But you can draw the symbol so that if you were imagining that you were pouring water into one side, it would spin to the left like a pinwheel. Does that make sense? Then you could draw it upside down, and if you poured the water in, it would spin in the other direction. And so in India, the way that you drew your swastika on the wall of your temple or your house, you were signaling to people which branch of spirituality you followed. If you poured it in one direction, you were a traditionalist, the way I described the yogic. If you poured it in the other direction, oh my goodness, you were a tantric. And so in one direction, it means I'm going with the flow, Lakshmi, of life. I'm honoring that my natural nervous system does not want to sit for meditation for an hour. Can I get an amen? I want to just be a yoga teacher in this country that speaks this to you guys. Like, nobody likes to sit for an hour or 7 in meditation. That's why if you start a yoga studio and you're like, we're offering meditation, your studio will close very soon. The life force does not want to sit still. What does she want to do? Yes. And I hope what you're hearing is that there's not one that's better than the other. We need both. Ayurveda is Tantrik Ayurveda, because there's not all Ayurveda is the same, but Tantrik Ayurveda is the missing, chucked out stepsister, who's not really a stepsister, of yoga, who said, we actually want to understand the way the life force works naturally in us, and give that a push to go in the flow of love and life. The other direction, actually, I'm going to go in the opposite direction of the natural flow of life. The word hatha yoga literally means to force. Life's going that way, so I'm going to go this way. And if you study engineering, you know that's how you get power. Do you know what I'm talking about? You're going to, we put a dam here. No to the life force. And now I can do what to the life force? Exactly. Say that louder.
Manipulating.
One path is masculine. Does anyone know that right now in our world there's a problem with how much our masculine side and men and women have manipulated and controlled the life force? So Ayurveda says, chill out on the controlling for a second, yogis. First, you have to have yin before you can have yang. In other words, Ayurveda is the science of understanding how this life force works naturally in me. and to go in that direction, and then to maybe put up some boundaries and some tools and some techniques and maybe a little breath work, etc. Only once I've understood the way in which I, Katie Silcox, am a particular manifestation in human form of the stardust of the universe, basically. And that unique combination is different than yours. Ayur means life. Veda means the science of, the study of, but it's more than that. It's the worship of. The fact that your sacred body is constantly attempting to mitigate the craziness that you do to it. And for some of us, you don't just have a physical body. You have a mental body, you have an emotional body, you have an energy body, you have a bliss body, you have a karmic body, you have all these different layers of who you are. And so if you go out of balance in one, the others will become depleted to try to make up and heal the other one. A really good example of that is, like, if you spend, and it's chronic for me, I really will admit to the nth degree, I am a very mental person. If you say that in England, it means you're insane. I'm a very thinking anybody else have thoughts a lot? We spend a lot of our time in the mental realm. And so if you are in the realm of worry and fear, or for some of us it manifests as like negativity, doubt, self-insecurity, that kind of stuff, think of that as a lesion or a growth on the mental emotional body. And so all of a sudden you feel sick. Anybody ever notice this? You can worry yourself sick. Similarly, those of you who've ever been in an accident or had a real physical trauma, you know how that can lead to depression. So these bodies are interwoven into one another. What we do to one, we do to the other. Ayurveda is really the science of your youthfulness. The goal of yoga is to teach you how to die well. The goal of Ayurveda is to keep you as young as possible for as long as possible. We're still friends? Y'all cool with that? I want to just speak the words to myself and to you, because I'm a part of our culture just as much as anyone. We have a certain subconscious soup that we as Westerners are swimming in that says after X age, X starts to happen. Do y'all know of this cultural malaise that we all suffer from? I mean, for some of you, some of us pessimists, it's like 32. Things started changing. Others of you are like perimenopause, right? Did you know men go through menopause? They start doing things like buying sports cars and dating younger women. These are very Western concepts. There is no word for PMS or perimenopause in Sanskrit, in Ayurvedic medicine. In Japan, it's now becoming a thing. In India, it's now becoming a thing amongst who? The Indians and the Japanese and the Chinese who have become westernized. It's a psychic entity. It's a disease. And it says you're going to age, and our lifestyle reinforces it. So Ayurveda in India, like it was unheard of that your vitality, that your mind, that your sex power would in any way change until the day you die. In Ayurveda, it was understood that you would have a different vitality, but a form of your vitality through every stage of your life. In fact, when you reach what we call menopause in Japan, I was like such a weirdo. I was like 32 and like writing a master's thesis on menopause, like super into menopause at like 30. But this study that I did in other cultures, just looking at the language that they use around the menopause, this was called when she becomes a queen. When she is liberated from who? All them. That have been sucking on the teat all the time. You're done. You're free. Now is when she can begin to step into her sex power. I'm preaching this because I want you to go out and preach it in a Cincinnati appropriate way. But preach it, because if you tell people this, just the idea right now your bodies are becoming more vital. Just me speaking it and you thinking it, right now your cells are vibrating on a different level than when you walked in. Knowledge is our power. So Ayurveda is the science of vitality. It's also the science of I'm sorry. I can really go back and learn about, unfortunately, 0 to 27 is about the age when you kind of form a lot of the energetic template for your mind, body, spirit. So I don't know what y'all are doing from 0 to 27, but like there was like so much tequila and like rolly cigarettes and Spaniards involved. And Ayurveda says, this is not good for you, right? But like the good news is that Ayurveda is also the science of repair. You can metabolically regenerate yourself through Ayurveda. You, according to Ayurveda, are a pulsation of prana, life force, and the reservoir or the container of this vital sex force, because that's what it is. You're just vibrating sexuality. All your cells are multiplying and making one another and dying off. This reservoir of this sexual force is called ojas. And ojas, the teachings say, is you have a high level of it that you're born with. Some of you I can look at you and see you have it. Vanessa, she has it, right? Others of us, I won't name names, we don't have as much. You know what I'm talking about. You know, you have a friend who's just like eating corn dogs and like, not that Vanessa's doing this, but like just like doing whatever she wants and just like always is good. And then us yogis are like constantly taking care of ourselves, but like always are sensitive. So we have, some of us are born with more of it than others, and that's just another discussion around karma. But the cool thing about not having as great ojas is that you suddenly are super interested in Ayurveda. Ojas is this container that you can't build the higher level you're born with, but you can build the lower level ojas. You can replenish your vitality, your youthfulness. And before the end of this class, I'm going to give you Katie's top tips. You know, I know people like this. Well, what can I do? We're going to give you Katie's top tips on regenerating and rebuilding your lost ojas. If you've ever had a baby, you like gave that little monkey a few of your drops, and you only have 8 of the, yeah. I didn't read this, but I kind of say this. You can take it or leave it. I believe that you give them 1 for each child. You have 8. Mothers in the room will know that they give a lot back, but it's not the same. You are giving. You are the force of giving. So these ojas, these 8 vital drops, some of it you can't rebuild. It's just gone. And then some of it you can. So we'll talk more today about how can I build my ojas and really preserve it. So this life force can be conserved and reserved. It can be recycled and regenerated and replenished in all of your mind and your organs and your sexuality, and you can be vital until the day you die. This is the main point I want to make. That really is the goal of Ayurveda. When you feel good, which is the goal. That's not the goal. The goal of yoga is not that you feel good. And if you're doing a teacher training, you know, if you're just coming for a little class, we'll make you feel better. But even then, like, have you ever seen like a really tight dude go to yoga? Yes, he feels better when he leaves, but he hates you all through class. Yoga is not about you feeling good. It is, but it's not. Ayurveda is about you waking up in the morning and having a zest and a fire for life because you feel happy. When you feel good, you do good. This is sort of the where we want to build from, is really you feeling the most vital possible. The issue with our culture is that we don't have a lot of healthy role models around this. Especially us. We're from the Midwest. I'm from the South, Appalachia, right? We don't have a lot of good role models left for us. And so what happened with industrialization and the food, etc., and then even the lifestyle, many of us who are sitting here in the room, we didn't get taught this. And so it's sort of up to us to kind of rewire ourselves around this. I was listening to one of my teachers speak about this, and he said, now, it doesn't matter who you voted for, but right now, your leader eats McDonald's. It doesn't matter if you love him or hate him. We want to make sure that the food really we become what we eat. We become it. And so if our leader at the top has McDonald's food, he has, according to Ayurveda, McDonald's consciousness. Again, it's not about whether you like him or not. It's about this idea around food becoming mind. And now what does it look like to have wild blueberry consciousness? Your grandma's bread. Whatever, you know what it is, that thing that makes you feel nature's aliveness and truth. The plant world is our source. When a plant enters into a metabolic relationship with the human form, it is alchemical lovemaking. The plant begins to inform the consciousness of your body. So when I speak to you, and I'll be honest, I do eat meat, but very rarely. I want to be plant life. Mostly because most of the meat on the planet has suffered so badly. One of y'all wants to bring me a very happy hen or, but like what we put in our body, we put in the intelligence and the karma in the sense of that thing's memory. In our world today, we don't have role models. So be kind with yourself if you have McDonald's every now and then, right? It's not to make you have guilt or shame at all. So ojas is the energy keeping our face young. It's what some of you in the room have this, baby face. There are people that have baby face, and it's a sign of good ojas. Vanessa, sorry, she has baby face. She's going to look like 20 when she's like 80, right? Your family has this, it's baby face, and it's a sign of good ojas. In our culture, we demonize baby face. Did you know? It's all about being so svelte. But actually that's interesting. Again, we don't have the right role modeling. There's nothing wrong with either way. But this baby face is a sign of good ojas. And it is also, you can look at a picture of yourself, no matter what your bone structure or your fat content, etc. You can look at a picture of yourself when you were 13 or 22, and you'll be like, I have baby face. Like, do you know what I'm talking about? You'll have that little bit of chubbiness. This is a sign of good vitality. And according to Ayurveda, you can have this at age 50, 60, 70, 90. We're all so obsessed in this culture of no role models with the face. It's all about the face. The facial, right? The facelift, the face makeup. Is it about the face with you, Rob?
I do take care of it.
You look great. And there's nothing wrong with taking care of it. But what Ayurveda says is that, we spend, I don't know what a facial costs, like it depends on, I guess, where you go, but $120, $80, something like that. And Yogi Bhajan says, Yogi Bhajan was this great, hilarious, wild Kundalini Ayurveda teacher in LA. And he said, these women are going and getting these facelifts for $10,000 or whatever they cost, and these, facials for $150, $200. He's like, if they would just take $20 and go get some sweet potatoes with ghee and some water chestnuts and lotus root, and they would eat that for a week, their whole face would change. How many of you are eating water chestnuts and lotus root and, maybe sweet potatoes, right?
Next week.
Next week. We're going to ship it in. So just take note, ladies and gentlemen, water chestnuts, ojas. Ojas. And if you have my book or you get a copy, there's a whole section in my book on ojas that tells you what are the foods that are the highest in this stuff, your vital force. So just a quick kind of sort of side practical note. What is the quickest way that I can use Ayurveda to affect this conservation project of ojas? And the teachings, the ancient Charaka Samhita, this 5,000-year-old tradition, says, in order to preserve the ojas, one must avoid the people and things that disturb one's mind. That's why I'm like, no more New York Times for me. I'm like, you can read the front page, but just in and out. Like, you don't need to just sit there and chew on this all day. One must avoid the people and things that disturb one's mind. Easier said than done. What else? Our everyday diet. Every meal is an opportunity to enter into a worship ceremony with this is representative of that, the fire pit that lives in your gut. Just like this fire, which funnily enough may be a sign from God. I forgot my ghee. I forgot my ojas to this party. This fire holds sort of the representation of the cow dung is here. If you want to see cow dung at the end of class, is representative of the food. Right. The ghee is representative of the oils in the food, and the offering of your prayers is the rice. And so if I've got a ton of food and poor fire, like I don't have a good fire source, then the cow dung will just smother the fire and you just get smoke, right? Whereas if I have a lot of fire and not enough dung, what will happen? First, it'll just make a big fire, but then it'll do what? Go out. So again, I just have smoke. Smoke in this story is this is your restlessness. This is your gas. This is your belching. This is your bloating. This is your anxiety. This is your dry vagina and skin. Am I touching on some moments of our experience in life? It's very common, these sorts of dryness issues. And so our everyday diet, every time I put the food in the mouth, it's an opportunity to enter into this delicate relationship with an actual fire that lives inside your gut. It's not my intention in a 2.5-hour event to teach you the entire understanding of Ayurvedic nutrition. But again, if you get these tiny little things and you truly implemented them, you really would be like 90% ahead of all humans in this country. So one of the most let me pause, because I feel like I'm just like, we only have 2.5 hours. I want to give them everything that I know. So let me just pause and let your meal settle for a moment and let my mouth settle. And are there any thoughts or questions about this far? Yes.
As far as like avoiding disturbance, and I know this might be a little bit different for food, but I feel like this is also a Western approach to be spiritually bypassing.
Right.
And so, I don't know, I've just been examining that a little bit more, and not that we want to then bring in foods, for instance, from like an Ayurvedic standpoint that are going to like disrupt the body.
Yeah.
But like, how does that relationship hold space for one another?
When they're speaking about avoid the things that disturb the mind, it would be akin to saying avoid junk food. You do not need to bring in any more drama into your life than life will already be giving you because of your karma and just being in relationship. So this is something like, and it's a really good question, because being able to, like my big preacher's speech at the beginning of class, we want to be in life. We want to read the New York Times. What we don't want to do is have an addiction to Facebook. So it's sort of like New York Times, I know for me personally, I can look at it, I can read the headlines, I might read an interesting article or two, and that doesn't disturb me. If I start to notice that I'm scrolling Facebook, that is disturbing me. I start to notice how I'm in a pattern of not wanting to feel my own life feelings. So more that we're not avoiding life, but I'm not indulging in negativity or blame or any of these sorts of things. Similarly with food, look, it's all about how much you can handle. And at this moment, this being right here can handle X. The dude that I'm dating right now can eat a cheeseburger and drink a beer and go to bed and wake up and like praise Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, if I did that, I would just be like, well, the day's ruined, you know? And so it's also like knowing, I remember Rod Stryker used to go, one corn dog and I'm dead, you know? And so it's also a refinement. You guys know this. What you did before you became a yogi, maybe you can't do that anymore. So, you know, I think it's all about balance and moderation. And so, yeah. I don't know, did that answer it or?
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thoughts, questions? Yeah.
So whenever I wanted to exercise for a very long time, and I did damage to my body,
Yeah.
and I didn't know that I was sensitive to the antibiotics and
Mhm.
the hormones injected until 30. So now
Yeah.
I have an autoimmune.
Mhm.
Now I'm vegan and I feel better, but the damage is done, and I have to live with that now.
Yeah.
And now I'm struggling with trying to find the feel better.
Yeah. 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 Totally get you, Mama. How
Yeah.
many of you were also plugged full of antibiotics as a young child, like by a well-meaning mother? Yeah, it's what you're speaking to is actually a feature of our culture right now for many of us. I so get you. What I would say to you, having struggled with my own autoimmune stuff, my own antibiotics overwhelm, my own like gut completely being annihilated, the Divine Mother has got you in the palm of her hand. And I just came back from my third Panchakarma. You might want to check that out. Panchakarma is a methodology of restoring you and healing you, and you can feel better. Yeah, it's in the book. Just buy my book. But I'm happy to give you guys more info on that at the end of class. And also, it's just like I feel you and I see you because I've been there, and I can't tell you how different I feel from Ayurveda. And so we can heal. We can. For sure. Your body, our body, so it brings me to this, your comment. It brings me this thing that I wanted to make sure to say tonight, and that is this idea of healing. Also, we have a westernization of the idea of healing that very much involves some really great things, because Western medicine is rad if you've got certain things wrong with you. Like, if you get a broken arm, like, do not come to me for a fire ceremony, right? Go to the hospital. You know, it's really good at dealing with stuff that's already manifested, right? What it's not great at is healing us, and y'all know this. And so one of the things we're doing in my community, and I have an Ayurveda school, we have 120 women We welcome men, but we have all women. We have 120 women who are training to be Ayurvedic healers. This program is about you learning how to heal yourself, actually, and then help others. And so one of the features that we've had to deprogram ourselves from is this Western idea of healing as an extraction process. Extractive foods. Has anyone in this room ever been on a diet? Has anyone in this room ever eaten a mother freaking salad? Has anyone ever had a wheatgrass shot or a kombucha or an acai juice or a, yeah. There's nothing right or wrong. Please feel me. I don't want anyone to leave. You can say what you want, but please don't leave saying, Katie Silcock said we're not allowed to X anymore. No one's allowed to say that. What I'm merely saying is, in reality, according to every mystical, medical tradition, says there's a yin and there's a yang. And a way we can think of it in our American language is extractive and nourishing. So what Ayurvedic healing says that's so mind-blowing, and you see my love and you see my passion because I struggled with this so bad for so long. Ayurveda says your body cannot detoxify. It cannot heal. It cannot lose weight. Anybody feel like you might want to detox, heal, or lose weight? Like we're all into it, obsessed with it. The body can't do it until the body feels that you are warm and cozy and nurtured and safe and reasonably calm. The body can't, because your body is such a wicked smart piece of work that it will not bring the deeper tissues, poisons out of you, because that is so hard on you. The body will keep the poisons of multiple sources, Monsanto, the antibiotics, the plastics. I mean, we've got it coming at us from all sides. And so we see so much obesity in this country because what the body's doing is just holding more and more fat cells, and the fat cells are where those things are stored. Do you see the sweetness and the genius of your body? It says, add more fat cells, because she's got all these xenoestrogens in her. We don't know where to put them. We don't want to put them anywhere important. So hold that fat, and whatever you do, don't let that fat go. Am I on a tangent that y'all are down for?
Yeah.
So true.
Does anybody ever feel like you just had this thing right here that's like a pooch belly, and you can work out and you can X and you can Y? Oh my gosh. Mine is completely gone. And it wasn't until I really got serious about trusting this mother system that says, if you put extractive things in your body, like raw food, like salads, like greens, these aren't bad. They're just going to tell the body you're not being nourished. You're not warm. You're not wet, because all those things are cold and drying. It's not until the body feels warm, cozy, safe, and unctuous, oily. That's why we use so much oil when we cleanse in Ayurveda. So, it's just food for thought. We have to actually slow down, eat more. I mean, I can tell you story after story of woman and man that I've helped, the weight just falls off of them. And I'm like, I want you to make a wheat chapati. And they're like, I'm weight intolerant. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're toxic. So whatever you put in your body, you're going to show up to your doctor and it's going to go, you're allergic to everything. She's like, I hear you. I am gluten intolerant. I can't eat dairy. No, you can't eat anything. I'm teasing, but I'm not, because I've helped so many people just drop the pounds. And what really it required was them to trust me and Ayurveda a little bit, and to just eat freaking ghee and rice. I don't eat carbs. I'm just gonna get fat. I'm like, girl, I got a 6-pack abs and I'm eating the glutens. So I want you to feel my passion in my heart, because this is a madness and a disease in our society that we're perpetuating. So it's just food for thought. And in general, what Ayurveda says is you want to have 60% nourishing. So on your plate tonight, tomorrow, on your plate, you want to have 60% nourishing foods and 40% extractive foods. So do y'all need to stand up for a second? Let's stand up. So let's stand up and just do something. Do a movement that you never thought you would do in public.
I don't think that exists.
Okay. So maybe I should rephrase that. All right, so as you're moving a little bit, everybody just start. It's what I'm teaching you. Your intuition right now is loving this. Your ego might be hating me right now, but your intuitive self loves it. So from your intuitive self, what are just maybe yell out some nourishing foods.
Wheatgrass.
No. All right, Cincinnati.
Potatoes.
Let's pause for a second. We'll give some parameters. Things that dry the system or cool the system are usually astringent, like a pomegranate or an acai or a wheatgrass. Things that build the system tend to be a little bit more sweet. And okay, so go ahead, please. Nourishing. Some of you had already said some.
Sweet potatoes.
Dates.
It is dates, ghee, spaghetti squash.
Cashew butter.
Lentils, interesting one. Lentils are actually extractive. And now that makes sense why every culture in the world gives you about 60% rice and 40% lentils. Because lentils are extractive in general.
Right now,
Avocado.
right now, my crack is cashew butter.
Cashew butter. Sure. So any of the oils, any of the more carbohydrate heavy, by the way, your body desperately needs carbohydrates for your brain to function. It requires glucose, and you can get carbs through things that aren't necessarily bread, right? Some of the things you guys mentioned have really great carbs. There's something in Ayurveda we call super carbs, and those are carbohydrates that are particularly good at breaking down into brain glucose. And the number one super carb is white basmati rice. So traditionally, you would let the rice cool. When the rice becomes a little cooler, it actually has more capacity to break down into brain glucose. So Yogi Bhajan would be like, if you only eat meat, you are literally going to be dumb. The funny things, I'm just saying them to you because your brain will remember how hyperbolic this was. Your brain will remember this. It's just a way of saying we need everything. Meat is more, you may think, which one of the two? Meat is a huge builder initially. So can we sit down now? Yeah. And if you, in any moment during this logorrhea, want to stand up and just move again, please feel free. Or lean up against the wall. Or go to the bathroom. So meat is super interesting because initially it is building. But over time, it's extractive. And the reason why is that it takes so much for our body to actually break it down. So one of my teachers is a nervous system expert genius, lives in Portland, and she's like, Katie, I've actually opened up cadavers who are heavy meat eaters, and it's crazy what they're holding. They're holding 35 pounds of fecal matter. Yeah. Even if they're what we would consider normal looking weight. So we're just aware, right? Meat takes a while to break down. So that's not saying eat it or don't eat it. It's saying if you have good metabolism if you have good digestive fire, you can handle it. You can have it. If you already are struggling, like some of us have been, right? Meat gives us this temporary feeling of strength that weakens the system over time. So I'm a lover of meat, and I do eat it. I don't want you to think that I'm saying that you can't have anything, even the wheatgrass. But only having it as a 40-60 ratio I've found to be really helpful. And if you know I'm having major gut problems where I'm not digesting my food, so you have any kind of assimilation or absorption stuff, the last thing I would do is throw something super heavy on it. Initially, it might make you feel better, but over time, it will weaken the ojas. So number one, we said everyday diet, 60-40 is just a good rule. Look down at your plate. Have 60% nourishing things, 40% extractive. Again, like, you can look this up easily online. Like, they'll give you extractive and nourishing food lists. It's also, again, in my book. So I wrote that book thinking I would never have to talk about this stuff again. And so I could talk about Tantra and sex. But the goddess had other plans for me. So I'm still talking about it. And I'm happy now to do it. So number 2 on this list of, what is the list of? I forgot. Do y'all remember? What is the list?
It was your top 10 advice.
We hadn't gotten to that one yet.
Super carbs.
Super carbs. There's only one on the list for tonight. No, the list is the top things that you can do to
Yeah.
conserve the ojas. Just making sure you're on your feet, ladies and gentlemen. Number 2. Everyday diet, we already said. Number 2, let that everyday diet in general for all beings be warm and wet. If you look back at what grandma and granddaddy and great grandma and granddaddy ate, do y'all know what your grandma and granddaddy ate? What did they eat? Maybe your great grandma and granddaddy. Sausage, eggs and bacon, sweet potatoes, pasta, green beans, corn. Mine ate black beans. Nobody ate wheatgrass. That was a good one, though. Grandma did not have a Vitamix. There were no smoothies. I know. I love the smoothies. Anybody love the smoothies? You are not going to like this at all. Just play with it. Just play with it. If you really want to have this oja stuff, a smoothie is if you have good digestive fire, y'all know what I mean by that, like a good metabolism, you'll just digest it. But even those people in this room that are like, I don't have any digestive issues, I'm good, I can eat whatever I want, it's still harder on your system. Here's why. You've got your Vitamix, and I like to do like frozen blueberry, cacao, cashew butter, ashwagandha powder, spinach, what else? Avocado, banana, a date, peanut butter, strawberries, protein powder. Oh, wait.
Almond milk.
If we're going to do the protein powder, we also have to list every ingredient in the protein powder. So let's imagine that I don't know why I'm teaching this, other than it's just so true. I'm sorry. Otherwise, like, I shouldn't be teaching you that, guys, because it makes me truly an unpopular teacher. But, like, just imagine, you just, like, putting all the ingredients in the smoothie out on the counter. And now I want you to imagine that you just eat all that. Dude, like a bowl of spinach, half a banana, scoop of almond butter, a dry thing of protein, half an avocado, almond milk, and now I'm adding the cacao, because I like the chocolate. Imagine eating all that in the morning, first thing, when your digestive fire is literally the lowest of the whole day. It is like taking this fire and dumping a smoothie on it. And this is coming from a smoothie lover, so I feel your pain. sister. They're so convenient. And what our psyche says, if you're like me, what our psyche says is, I am getting so much amazingness in me all at once, and I can just keep going. I don't have to actually sit down and enjoy this meal and be in this moment and feel how actually I'm like revving. Warm and wet. Should we pause and see if there's any questions on food? Now that I've dropped the bomb on smoothies, yes.
So what if I drink my nice warm tea before my
What if I just add cayenne powder to it?
Ginger.
No, I'll tell you why this is so much worse, my sister. Now what you're doing is you've got a fire. By the way, your kidneys and your digestive system can handle half a cup of warm water at a time. Any more, and you're taxing the kidneys, and you're putting out the digestive fire. I know so much about this because I literally wrecked my digestive system for a decade. Wrecked. So what you're suggesting is first pour a hot tea on the fire and put it out. And now add the smoothie on top of no fire. I know, it sucks, but like, no, there's no way around it. It's gotta be warm and wet. Just try it. Just try it.
So is it BS when they say drink 8 ounces of hot water with lemon in it?
Yes, it's BS. Anybody that tells you that, first of all, there's one answer to any question in Ayurveda, and that is, it just depends on you. So what I'm giving you guys is general guidelines. There's some people in who can handle 3/4 cup water, some 1/2, but in general, everybody's going to have this unique constitution that can't, like I was saying, some of these people in here can handle having a smoothie every day, and they could die a happy death and never have digestive issues. But what I'm saying is they could have actually had even more digestive capacity. And where that digestive capacity gets diverted to is your crucial vital organs. So what freaked me out and what actually started happening to me is because I had so damaged the digestive fire, now the fire can't go into the liver. Now you're having the kidneys and the adrenal glands fatigued, right? Because that fire, it's one fire. So it all rolls downstream. Food, thoughts, feelings.
What do you eat for breakfast?
I eat. It depends. But what I would say is, in general, just anything warm and wet, like scrambled eggs with spinach and some ghee, oatmeal with a little bit of spices and some coconut oil. I'll do like steel cut oats. I'll do millet. I'll do, like, my grandma would make biscuits and gravy with eggs. I mean, I don't eat that, but like I'll do eggs and toast with a lot of butter on it, or toast with almond butter. It just depends, right? And also it depends on the season. So there's some seasons when I want like eggs and avocado, and then there's some days in the spring where I just want like a really light millet with no oil on it. Millet is a great grain for the spring. You know, so this is where the constitution comes in, and this is where also the season comes in. But why I don't like to preach what you should eat when is because if you just listen, your body will go, today I want eggs, or today I want, you have to watch out, because now my body was addicted to every morning waking up and getting all that sugar from the smoothie of the blueberries and the cacao and the banana. It's actually, in nature, guys, another way of thinking about it is like grandma and granddaddy would like their apples and their fruits were just like so different than ours, right? The things we get have been now bred to be like hyper sweet. So if you think about it, like back on the farm or wherever we're from, right, you would have like blackberry season, and that's when you would eat it, and it would just be like this super special thing, and you would can them and you would have a pie. But now we can have it all the time. To just totally be eating fruit all the time is really weird if you think about the history of humanity. Fruit is like, holy cow, what a treat, right? So if I do fruit, I'll do like stewed apples. You can cook cook them actually. And you know, this isn't to say you can't have a banana or an apple every now and then. I'm just saying, if your ideal is to optimize digestive fire, slightly cooking food will always make it easier to digest for the system. And let's not like go into the science of that, because it's just there. It's like beyond truth and obvious. Raw food is a movement that only really exists in small pockets of Hawaii. And it's because it's 90 degrees all year round, or 80 degrees all year round. And usually, I'm just being dead honest, if you meet these people, they are so airy.
Oh, yeah.
They are like ungrounded humans. And they also don't ever have major jobs, because they're spending their whole day literally chewing. You know, I mean, I'm not being silly, but I am like, human society, it comes from the fact that we started cooking our food. Then we didn't have to chew so long. So number 2, wet and warm food is always going to be easier to digest. Plus, it's like what it's asking me to do is like take care of myself, you guys. It's so much easier to just throw everything in a blender, push yes, go. This is like, and now I'm going to sit down and I'm going to chew this food. We haven't even talked about that. I lost 10 pounds. I didn't need to lose a lot of weight. I wasn't that overweight, but I was very uncomfortable. I lost 10 pounds just like that in 3 weeks by just chewing my food and waiting until that moment when right before I felt really full. So yes.
Have you, I don't know if you have anything to say on it or not, but Candida, because I mean, this of course is going to be higher in carb.
Oh, sister.
So.
You just said my word. Do I have anything on Candida? Well, yes. Would you like to hear my thought on Candida? I once was like you, and I can't. First of all, you probably know this if you know about Candida, but if you don't, everybody in this room has Candida. It's a part of our gut flora. The problem is when it gets in an overgrowth. The reason that it gets an overgrowth is the fact that your digestive fire is low. You should be digesting as much Candida and having as much as you need, and etc. What happens is you get too much of it, and then it breeds itself, and now you have an overgrowth. And that's what most of us have that have things like leaky gut and IBS. Is anybody like, wow, this lecture's going south very quickly? But it's important because it's such a big health problem right now. And then the common prescription for Candida is eat mostly meat and vegetables. Don't eat a lot of sugar. Don't eat any sugar. Don't eat any fruit, really. And just do the meat and veg until you can get your system back. So I did this diet for years. Like, let's do an anti-Candida diet. Maybe that'll help. No, it never, ever cures it. And so what now these experts in Candida are saying is that actually the Candida isn't, the carbs actually help you get rid of the Candida. There's like this whole new theory about how carbs help you. And, you know, I don't know if you feel this way, but it's like the scientists or the nutritionists, like one day they say this and then the next day they say that. And whereas Ayurveda has been saying the same thing for 5,000 years. And there's been a 5,000-year-old history of proving things to really refine the science. And so what Ayurveda calls Candida is krumi. Krumi means worms. So it's a sort of thing that it's parasites and Candida. It's just any kind of fungal overgrowth they call krumi. When you get krumi, you eat khichdi. Khichdi is mung beans and rice.
I can't eat khichdi anymore. I used to eat it all the time. My digestive will not let me eat khichdi.
What happens?
My intestinal tract starts bleeding.
So you got some serious stuff going on. Yeah, so in more serious cases, they might have you do like broths and soupy rice, that kind of stuff. Yeah, you know, I would say forget about the Candida and really focus on how do I get the metabolic fire as powerful as possible. And what sometimes that involves is doing a lot of fats and broths and not eating a lot, actually, for a few days to really get the system. You know, I don't mean to give you health advice, but I'm just saying in general, if you have the health for it, some kind of fasting is even indicated. So, moving on. Third thing, on the list, on the grand tangent, we'll come back to the list. So the third thing on this list of how do I maintain this vitality, this youthfulness, this glow, this feel-good force, and that is energy management. The teachings call it brahmacharya, which means to consider that your life force, your sexual energy, which is just another way of saying your creative energy. There's no sex even involved. It's just the way you feel alive. That this vital energy be in alignment with divinity. Brahmacharya means to let one's energy walk alongside God, so that I am so tuned to the way that I use my life force for things that are going to bring me into alignment with my divine purpose, with this co-creation with divinity. So it spans from how I use my sexuality, who I sleep with, how I even just use my sexual energy, to learning how to make my yes to you a yes. And when I say yes to you, I mean yes. And when I say no to you, I mean no. This is also a big part of brahmacharya. And I'm from the South, so we may have some copacetic values as you all in the Midwest. And I come from a lineage of women where our yes might mean hell no. This is not wise use of our prana. Oh, sure, honey, I'll be right over. I'd love to help you with that. I can't stand this woman. You know, Tantra says, Ayurveda says, let your yes be coming from a yes. And so this is really all about boundaries, and it's about making a calendar for yourself that incorporates space for rest and digest and ease and spontaneity and magic. Wise use of the sexual energy isn't just who you're sleeping with. It's who you are engaging with, making that a conscious choice. You become, the teachings say, this median value of the vibrational force of those that you choose to spend your time with. You become them. Who am I hanging out with? And so a part of the path is not only getting rid of your krumi, your worms, but also the psychic worms that are in your life that, you know, you have to cut them out. Swami, one of my teachers said, in America, you have this very strange relationship to sexuality. On one hand, you have this like crazy openness about it, and like the porn culture is really a problem in our world right now. This like very big devaluation, especially of the female sexual energy. Porn, by the way, is created for men by and large. 99.99% of it is about a male release, an attention release, really. This complete disregard for the female experience, 100%. And then on the other hand, you have this complete shame around it, right? This guilt around it, and this culture of feeling so disconnected from our natural, normal sexual energy, right? And so he said, in America, he was talking about this in the 70s, you know, the Americans say that their women are so liberated, but they call them chicks. Don't they know that a woman is an eagle? So it's this knowing of the potentiality of this as an evolutionary force for us. And I think a lot of us are now very interested in our sexual energy and stepping into that more and more. This is a big part of Ayurveda. Number 4, sleep. There's not a right amount, right? But you know what your amount is when you feel good. I feel like a lone wolf howling in the darkness sometimes when I go home to my family and I say, I'm going to bed. And they go, what? It's so early. And I say, yeah, but I'm up at 5 a.m. chanting to God. My point is just that if you've ever gone camping, you know that your body will naturally, over time, start to fall asleep after the sun goes down. This is the natural Ayurvedic rhythm, and you're to get up a little bit before sunrise, usually. When I say I feel like I lone wolf, it just the things that are just so natural. Because we don't have any role models right now, if you step into the revolutionary act of just doing natural living, you guys, you may feel a little bit weird. That's okay, right? There's this phrase of like, it's, of course, the man who's sane seems insane in the land of the mad ones. So again, because we don't have role models, simply adjusting your life so that you're sleeping a normal human 8 hours a night might seem like this huge revolutionary act, but it's just sanity. So let yourself sleep and rest. And then number 4, move your prana. That might mean exercise, yoga asana, dance, pranayama. The body of the human being was meant to move. We are the most sedentary versions of our ancestry ever known to man. So on that note, let's stand up. So feel free to stand up, go to the bathroom. This is a long Ayurveda download. Are you cool? Are we still friends?
Yeah.
Okay, we're still good.
What if you warm up your smoothie?
Oh! What's your name? What's your name? So Kim is a woman after my own heart. You are literally saying the same stuff I would torture my poor teacher with. So here's what she said to me. Do you want to know what Dr. Claudia Welch said to me? I was, I mentored with Dr. Claudia Welch, who's this incredible mama. And, you know, Kim, your body type, you probably know this, you have a lot of fire. You might be one of the more fiery kitties in the room. He might be beating you, but this mama has some fire. Guess who had, out of 35 people in the course, in my graduating Ayurveda school class, they did this pulse diagnosis, and this pulse master came, and we had 30 students in the room, and he says, Katie Silcox wins the contest for highest pitta pulse. And of course, as a pitta, you're like, I won! You won the competition. They're like, yeah, chill out. So I get you, sis. And the thing she said to me was, so I'm not saying to you, I'm telling you what she said to me, and you can take it for what you want with it, but it really struck me. And she said, for a very pitta person, Ayurveda truths feel like a death sentence to your ego. And she would say, no more CrossFit, more ecstatic dance, more yoga, more swimming, but better walking slowly through the nature. You know, and my fiery self was like, I'm gonna get fat. I'm not gonna be hot. So I get you, sis.
Wow.
And I kept doing it. I kept doing what she told me not to until I finally suffered so badly. If you're not, look, the only reason you should do any of the stuff I'm telling you is if you're not okay. If you know there's something better and bigger and healthier and more sexually vital, all these things, like, we don't seek it out until we're suffering. Gary Crofstall used to say, my best students are the ones that suffered the most. I'm hungry for this stuff. But there was a period that, I'm still coming out of where I bucked. Being dead honest with you guys, I wrote Healthy, Happy, Sexy because the person that needed it the most was this kid. And I was touring the world. Italy, Russia. I was like literally in the tallest suite at the top of the hotel in Moscow, being served Ayurvedic meals, feeling like a complete fraud because all I wanted was a hamburger and french fries. So I'm just saying, the medicine is hard to take when you have your ideas about how the world is. But for me now, I'm done. I'm laying down on the ground, surrender. Ayurveda is my mother, will be till the day I die. She healed me because I was not okay.
So you can't warm your smoothie.
Look, if Kim wants to heat that up in a pan and cook her smoothie, she can. But no, I would say no. So let's see how much time we have left. So you guys seem like you're very, very smart people. And I want to honor the fact that you may already know something about Ayurveda, but how many of you, I mean, you can be very smart and know nothing about Ayurveda, but where are we on, like, we're kind of throwing out some of these terms, but let's kind of go back to the basics. Just like, let's talk about what Ayurveda is, the sort of Ayurvedic cosmology of reality for a second. How many of you feel like you have a pretty solid understanding of basic Ayurvedic phenomenology? Okay, so great. That means y'all might be slightly bored for a moment. Would it be helpful for most of us then to go through, like, what are these doshas and mind body types and the elements? Okay. Okay, so let's do this the best way, I think, is through a little bit of a story about your origins and mine. And what Ayurveda says is, in the beginning, like before there was me and Kim and our smoothies that were heating on the stove, and Shine Yoga in Cincinnati in the United States, and our McDonald's eating beloved president, like before all of that happened, and all of our thousands of lifetimes, there was just this force that you could think of him kind of like a beautiful male yogi. There was just God, really, right? This Purusha, it was called. Purusha means this original one before all the ones began. And this Purusha was very, very fulfilled, and sitting in his fulfillment, we can just think of him like a Shiva, right? Like sitting on the mountain with his beautiful long dreadlocked hair. And he was that first swastika, right? He was sitting in total bliss. He needed nothing and no one. And the senses were totally turned inward. And in that space, this God force, this Shiva force, he feels all is one. I am one with the everything. But there really wasn't anything. And so therefore I'm one with all. So he sits this way for millions and millions of years, just pure consciousness itself. And one day, this crazy thing happens. And that is, Shiva starts to feel what I asked you guys to feel in the meditation that we just had. He starts to have what the teachings call this tiny little pulsation of longing. And in that longing, he starts to feel this great desire build. And this desire was, I really want to know myself as something outside of myself. And in some stories, it's a woman that's meditating. In the Ayurveda tradition, it's Shiva. But in Tantric tradition, it's a woman who's meditating. And that's a different story we can also tell. But in this, we'll stick with Shiva version. Out of this pulse of his heart, some say it's the third eye, some say it's the heart, springs out this thing. And it forms in front of him. And there's just all these lights and colors and expressions, and it's her, right? Shakti. And this great goddess, beautiful, radiant creature pours out of his longing, his desire to be in love with someone else. it's really hard to fall in love with something that you already are, right? I know I have fallen in love with someone else, and it's because they're not me that it's so intoxicating. The reason why we love to fall in love is there's a part of us that knows it will never be mine. It will never be me. And so Shiva wanted to fall in love, and so out comes this goddess, right? And she starts to dance. And as she's dancing, this dude who's been totally fine for millions of years is suddenly completely wrapped. Have you guys ever felt that? You're just like going along, leading your nice life, and then all of a sudden you fall in love and everything gets so messed up. All your nice Vedic routines. Now you're cuddling instead of meditating. Now you're picking them up at the airport at 11:30 at night? That you only do for really sexy love. Or just like you got a puppy. Have you ever gotten a puppy? Oh my gosh, they're worse than a baby. But like you're so in love, right? So this is Shiva. He's like, you have wrecked my life, Shakti. She's dancing, she's undulating, she has bosoms, it's all there for him, right? And then Shakti, because she's the goddess of the universe, starts birthing babies. And out comes Jupiter and Saturn and Mars, and out comes me and you and Sally, Jesse, Raphael, and that's so random. And squirrels and birds and trees and all of the plant people and all the animal people and all the planet people, all these things come out of her. And imagine the sky. He's like, now she's birthing things. And she's not stopping. But she's also birthing feelings and dreams and thoughts. She is birthing everything that can be birthed. And he looks down and he goes, what the heck? She's got a cauldron. And she's using these things to make all these creatures and thoughts and unicorn dreams. And he's like, Shakti, what is in your magic pot? And she's like, this is our first date. So he like asks again the next day, and she lets him see the first thing in the pot. She's like, this is called the earth element. Oh, what's that like? Well, here, put it in your hand. He holds it, and it's heavy, and it's cool, like mud. She says, this is good for building. And she teaches him about the earth element. This is good for grounding. This is good for planting seeds, etc., etc. She starts to teach him about the earth element. It's cool, it's heavy, it's damp, it's good for birthing things, it's good for keeping things till they need to be birthed. It's good for, and she educates him. What else is in your pot? Come back tomorrow. Because we have to keep them waiting, girls. They love to hunt. Don't deprive them of their joy. So she hands him the next day, what is this, Shakti? And she says, this is water. What is this like? Touch it, feel it, it's wet, it's liquid. If you pour it into the cauldron, it can take the shape of any container you put it in. It's cool. It's heavy, but it's less heavy than that earth from yesterday. And he sits it down. Next day he comes back now. He brought flowers and chocolates because she's so hard to get. This is now a really special one for us, Kim and I and Rob. This is fire. Ouch, you can't touch it. No, you have to have a container for fire. Fire is heavy, but it's lighter than water and earth. Can you feel that? Yes, it's chaotic. It's unpredictable. If you sit it down, it's going to be mobile. It's hot. And it's a little bit oily. You'll see that flame needed ghee. We didn't have it, so it can't light. Okay, these are the qualities of fire. He sets it down. Next day comes back, hands him the element of air, and she says the way that you feel air is actually from the last element that I can't give you. The last element is the element of space, and space is the container through which this wind can blow. And he says, well, let me hold it. And she says, you can't hold the wind. The nature of the wind is it is movement itself, but I want you to feel it. And so she blows this wind on him, and it hits the hair and it moves, and he feels his skin cool off. Right? She says it's cooling and it's drying and it's mobile and it's really light. You can't hold it. He says, oh, teach me, great goddess. Space is what all of these elements are held in, and it's the most light, and it's the most subtle, and the most etheric. And without space, all these elements would just squash together. We wouldn't even be able to use them. And so he says, okay, so these are the building blocks of all of these Sally Jesse Raphaels you're creating. Unicorn thoughts and dreams, and all the subtle and all the dense. Yes, these are my elements, but I'm not done. The elements like one another. They have an affinity for each other. She picks up the water, she picks up the earth, and she takes her cauldron, and she pours them both in, and she stirs it, and she says, water and earth love to be together. And when you mix them, she said, now stick your hand down in there. And he pulls out this like thick, cool mud. And she says, this is called kapha. Kapha is unctuous, it's heavy, it's dense. It is the nature, the most dense aspect of my body and everything in my creation. And now we'll set that aside. Now we're going to mix fire. And now, if I had it, we would be doing this, by the way. Not the mud part, but definitely the fire part. Now I'm going to pour this oil, this ghee, on the flame. And he sees, oh, the fire gets bright. And she says, the unctuous quality of water, which is oil, loves to be with the flame. So we call this pitta. And the I said as kapha is this essence, is ojas, this radiance that's coming off the fire, that warmth that you feel, that glow, that thing about fire that we all love, where we just want to sit by a bonfire and stare at it. What is this hypnotic force field? And she says, it's tejas. It's the radiant splendor of my aliveness. It's the warmth of my personality. It's the charisma of my dance that's making you have your cold Shiva yogi heart melted. And he says, I like that one. And then she puts that aside, and she now comes with this breath of air and shows again how it moves through the space. And she says, this also is my play. This air has an affinity for space. They need one another to move. And when you put these two together, I call it vata. And it means literally wind in space. And this thing has the ability to animate things. It's the thing that brings me to the edge of what I'm comfortable with. It brings me to the forefront of my evolution. It's the thing that enables me to be connected to you. The space between us, it's electric. And he's like, yes, I'm so into you. And so then she reveals to him the doshas. And she says the positive life-giving aspect of this air is called prana. So it's a way of thinking about this. The more dense, gross, subtle bodily form we call vata. And when we're speaking medically or therapeutically, vata tends to be the thing we say when something has gone out of balance. Vata is when you have too much of something good. This is the confusion sometimes in the yoga world, and people say, I'm a vata. No. You are pranic. Vata is when things go off balance. We call it vata. When things are moving.
All right, you guys, that was a little taster of a workshop with me in Cincinnati. And we hope that this sparked your interest in learning more. And if you are interested, you can join us for Ayurveda School. Level 1 is starting
this coming January, mid-January. We also have a subscription program called the Lineage of Love, where for $18 a month, you can get classes and lectures and practices, recorded meditations, relaxation practices, just a whole bunch of juicy stuff every month. So check that out at the website. And please leave us a review if you love this podcast. That really helps people find us and get the word out. All right, you guys, have a great day.
Put the pull up on the suitcase.